Hey everyone, SK here, back with my second commentary video. Today I'll be pushing to 7,000 trophies on ladder. Right now I'm at 6,800, so it'll be about 6 games away. And I'll be playing live matches with 3.0 Xbow cycle as usual. And what I'll try and do is give some commentary throughout each of the live matches to try and describe my thought processes and decisions as the match progresses. And I might do a short little summary at the end of each match, kind of describing how I played each match and how I was able to win. So that's about it for now. Let's get started, and I hope you enjoy the video. Alright, so we got the first match against Adam from Woodland. Not sure what he has, so I'm gonna cycle my cards pretty passively to start out, just to try and find out what he's running. And it looks like he's not going to play much, so could potentially be a heavier deck if he's choosing to loot. And he goes with a Baby Dragon, so could be a bunch of things, but in my experience, Baby Dragon is most likely going to be either Graveyard or E-Giant. So one play I like to make against both of these decks is Xbow Opposite. If they play a medium troop in the back, so for example, Baby Dragon, Knight, something like that, it's a pretty decent play. Looks like he's still not playing anything, so we'll apply a bit of pressure with his Ice Spirit and Log as well. And he does have a Knight, so Knight Baby Dragon means it's most likely going to be Graveyard. And he actually goes in with a Graveyard right now. Definitely not a play I agree with by him. I'm actually going to Expo right now because Knight Graveyard is 8 Elixir, pretty expensive, which means he's definitely low in Elixir right now. And he can't afford a bomb tower, so he has to bar barrel, so I can just catch that, and Skeleton's out of poison range. And I do get a pretty substantial Expo lock, which he's definitely not happy about. And he's forced to NATO as well, so definitely not happy about that. And he's just laughing, so not sure why he went with that really aggressive Graveyard. If I had to guess, he might have thought that my archers were out of cycle. But I was cycling pretty quickly, so I was able to get back to them relatively easily. And he goes with... he's down Elixir from what it looks like, so I'm going to go in with an Expo right now and see what he plays. And he goes with a Knight Bomb Tower, that's fine, I'll let it die. And he still has to respond to this Knight in the right as well, and he does with a Barb Barrel. So I'm definitely happy about this trade on both lanes. We're even in Elixir going into double Elixir time. And I have a really substantial damage advantage, so that's really good for me. So I can defensive Expo, anti-poison to my right side tower, as you can see here. And he's forced to poison on the left, which is where he doesn't want to get damage in. And I can also high Tesla. I really like these high Teslas in this matchup because they don't really have much of a way of dealing with them. Most of the troops they play will kind of go into them. And he goes with a NATO Barb Barrel on my archers, which is actually pretty expensive, so I'm going to go in with an Expo Tesla right now, because he just spent a lot, and he also has to respond to the stuff on the right. So he might actually Graveyard right now in front of this stuff, let's see. And he goes with a Poison instead, so that's fine. I played my archers like that, just in case he went with a Graveyard. Looks like he didn't. But I can actually cycle back to an Expo much quicker than he can cycle back to his Poison and Bomb Tower, so he goes with Knight, so all his ground troops are actually out of cycle right now, so he has nothing to tank for this Expo. So all I have to do is catch this Barb Barrel, which I can pretty easily, and I can get the final connection for the game. So Splash Yard is a pretty easy matchup for Expo. He played a really bad Graveyard at the start, so I punished him for that, but as you could see, even in double Elixir, as long as I played anti-poison defensive Expos and then went in at the right times, it was pretty easy to get an Expo connection. Alright, so we got the next game against Cal from Toxic Stars, and not sure what he's playing, so we'll start this game out relatively passively. We do see an Ice Wizard, so it could potentially be another Graveyard deck like we just played against. Let's see what else he plays. He plays a Baby Dragon, so definitely gonna Expo Opposite and see what he has for it. And we do see a Lumberjack, so it could be a Golem deck, maybe. No, we see a Balloon, so this means it's going to be the Anaban Pekka Balloon Freeze deck, actually. And yeah, we do see a Zap, so definitely going to be the Anaban Pekka Balloon freeze deck. I'm going to Knight right now because he's kind of low in Elixir, and my idea is that anything he plays to defend my Knight will go into the Tesla and die. So let's see if that happens. And it does. So I can just reset with archers in the back, and my general game plan against this deck is to play pretty aggressively because they don't really have a way of getting on top of Teslas. Their spells are Freeze, Tornado, and Zap, so no real way of getting on top of Teslas. And I'm going to Tesla like this, so it'll kite a balloon played in the right, and if he goes in with the balloon on the left, I can kite it over to the Tesla with an Xbow. And it looks like he's not going to play anything, so I'm going to Xbow since I have a supporting Tesla on the field. And there's the Pekka as I expected, so let's see if he balloons with this. And he does, so what I'm going to do is Skeletons up high to kind of make the balloon cross over first, so the Tesla can target the balloon first. So it can kind of deal with that initially, and then deal with the Pekka afterwards. And I think he kind of overcommitted with that NATO, so I'm going to do the same thing, Knight at the bridge. And he is definitely low in Elixir right now, so I'm going to Expo opposite actually. Because of that NATO, again, like I said. And yeah, so he doesn't have enough for a Pekka, so I'm definitely going to support this Expo as much as I can. Let's see, Lumberjack, Baby Dragon. You can see the Tesla's just kind of DPSing down his Lumberjack and Baby Dragon. And I'm going to cycle back to an Expo because my Tesla's still alive. And he's back to Pekka now, but I have a pretty good defense setup. And he goes with the balloon, so I'm going to fireball the balloon back, so it'll actually die before getting a drop on my Expo. So that's a play you can make if you have a Tesla supporting your Expo. And I'm going to Ice Spirit on here just to make sure the Baby Dragon freezes for a bit. I'm going to wait till it crosses and then Expo again because you won't have enough for Pekka yet. So you will have enough for Pekka now that he goes with that Ice Whiz, but I'm still up in Elixir, and I can play this Tesla to stay on the field and potentially cycle back to another Expo. I'm going to fireball both of those, and he does kill my Expo, but I can cycle back to yet another one, and he won't have Pekka or Balloon in cycle because I just outcycled both of them. So I can just protect this Expo pretty well, and the Tesla stays alive, and there isn't much he can do as you can see. So I get another lock, and that should be game. So another relatively straightforward game. Like I mentioned, I played really aggressively because he couldn't get on top of my Teslas, so as long as I kept up the pressure and didn't let him build up a big push, it was a relatively manageable matchup for me. Alright, so we found the next match against a Japanese player. Not sure what he has, so I have to play pretty passively as usual to start out. And he goes with a Hog first place, so I'm going to have to cycle back to Tesla real quick. And he does go with the Earthquake, so it's going to be Hog Earthquake, a pretty tricky matchup. He did just use Hog Earthquake though, so I can try and get an Expo connection here. The better players usually cycle back to Hog to use on the Expo, which is really tough for me to deal with, so let's see if he does that. And I think he is actually back to Hog right now, so he does go with it, which is pretty unfortunate. I'm going to try and log it back to see if I can get some damage. And he does get back to Earthquake too. So this is a pretty tricky matchup, as I said, because especially in double Elixir, if they cycle multiple Hogs and Earthquakes, it'll be pretty tricky to deal with. And Earthquake shuts down my Expo pushes pretty well. He did just use Earthquake, so it's going to be pretty far out of cycle. So I can try and get another Expo connection here. And he does go with a bomb tower, so I do miss my Knight on the bomb tower, which is unfortunate, but this is looking pretty rough now because I just missed another opportunity to get an Expo connection. And this matchup is usually only winnable if the opponent makes a mistake and I can get an Expo connection to get a damage lead, because Earthquake outdamages Fireball in terms of tower spell damage. So without an Expo connection, this isn't going to be an easy matchup at all. And he did predict I would go with a high Tesla, with his archers, so thankfully I missed it by 1 tile just now. Ice Spirit does allow Archer to get 1 hit, so I'm gonna try and Expo again because Hog is out of cycle. But it looks like he'll just cycle back. And yeah, so this is a pretty rough situation for me. I'm not gonna use my Tesla on these Hogs, especially because he's gonna Earthquake on everything, and he goes with a Prediction Bomb Tower, so I'm gonna actually switch lanes right now and see if I can get a connection that way. He is down 4 Elixir because of that prediction. And he goes with low Archer, so I'm actually gonna Fireball. And he is back to Earthquake now, so his Expo is going to die, unfortunately. He does actually just log, so the Expo does still die. Not sure what I can do. I guess I'll go with another Expo here, just because the Bomb Tower dies. And get my Tesla ready in case he hogs. He doesn't. And yeah, as you can see, he's going with these high Earthquakes, which is a good play by him, because if I go with a Tesla, it'll provide very little value, especially if he Earthquakes. But I am going to constantly switch lanes right now. As you can see, he goes with Knight in the right, which is why constantly switching lanes is a good idea. This time I am going with the Tesla. Try and get a small connection, and I do, but it is in the lane where he has more damage, which is unfortunate. So I'll have to go back to the right now, because I can't let him get Earthquake value on the left. And I will Knight to predict the Bomb Tower as usual. He goes with a high Earthquake, so I'm going to Tesla because Earthquake is just finished in its duration, and I kite the Knight out of range, so I do actually get a Expo connection right here. It looks like he is trying to cycle back to Hog, so I have to cycle back to my Tesla real quick. Just to make sure I don't get out-cycled. And I did get a connection right there, which is really good for me. So this is actually going to be winnable now. As I mentioned, if you get a connection, it is winnable. And it looks like he's starting the Earthquake cycle on my tower, so I have to match that with Fireball cycle of my own. And just cycle back to a Tesla real quick. And every time he Earthquakes, I'm going to try and Fireball log if I can, just to keep up in damage. As you can see, he is slowly out-damaging me in terms of spell damage because of Earthquake, dealing more than the Fireball. But since I do have that block, I can still get more damage in, and I'm going to block his Knight at the river, as you can see, so that my tower actually targets his Hog Rider first. And these high Teslas that I'm playing are actually out of Earthquake range, as you can see. Just this placement right here, which is really important. So he goes with a final Earthquake. I can go with a final Fireball log just to get the damage lead. And it looks like we are going to be able to get the win. So definitely a bad matchup for Expo, but I was able to win that match by getting that one connection. He went with a really early Earthquake on my high Expo. So I Tesla'd on his Hog, kited Knight out of Expo range, and I was able to get a lock, and just spell cycle from that point onwards. And we have the next match against what looks like another Japanese player, so I'm gonna try and find out what he has for now. And we see a Heal Spirit, so it doesn't tell me too much since it's in a lot of decks right now. Same goes for Barb Barrel, but I am gonna catch that just to make sure it doesn't get damaged. And we see a Bandit, so it is definitely gonna be a Bridge Spam deck. Could either be Bridge Spam with Cannon Cart or Bridge Spam with Lumberjack Magic Archer, so let's see which version it is, and it is going to be the Lumberjack one. So definitely a good matchup for Expo. I'm going to Fireball that instantly to make sure it doesn't get too much value, and log this Heal Spirit just to make sure the Lumberjack dies. And he goes with a pretty aggressive Ram Rider, but I can just cycle back to a Tesla, which is why I pre-planted it at the start. So pre-planting Tesla's definitely an amazing play in this matchup. in most bridge spam matchups actually, because most of their troops are forced to go into your Tesla, if that makes sense, so pre-planting it is definitely a good play in these matchups, which is what I'll do quite a lot. And he does also have an Inferno Dragon, so I'm not going to go in just yet. We do actually see it there, so I'm going to go in now, and hover Knight just in case he plays Bandit. It looks like he lets it connect, so I'm actually going to let all his troops connect to my Expo and then Knight, just so that my Knight has more health, and I can make sure I take care of them properly. And he actually predicts my Ice Spirit with a Barb Barrel, so well played by him, have to give him that. Inferno Dragon does get some damage, but our Expo connection still puts us in the damage lead for now. So once again, I'm just going to pre-plant my Tesla. There's really nothing he can do about it, except for snipe it with magic archers, which I'm just going to fireball pretty much every time. And he goes with an Inferno Dragon, so I'm actually going to defensive Expo like this. This is anti-fireball to my left side tower, so we can't fireball the Expo in my left side tower. And it's also really low, as you can see, so that magic archer at the bridge actually won't be able to snipe it. So that's why I play my Expo like that. Now that I have a surviving Knight and Expo, I'm going to go in once again. Plus he just uses Ram Rider, so it won't immediately be in cycle. And I can catch this Barb Barrel with my Ice Spirit, and I'm going to fireball everything back. And my Expo is locked on, and he's forced to fireball, so really good trade for me. I can pretty much spell cycle from this point on, just pre-Tesla as usual, and you can see his Bandit is forced to go in, so I can just play my Skellies. I'm going to change the position of my Skellies a bit just so that he can't predict them. And I'm going to defensive Expo in the usual position, Ram Rider at the back, so I can just play out pretty much the same defensive sequence as I was. I'm going to log the Ram Rider back. I do miss it, but it's still fine. Ram Rider is actually going to connect to my tower, so I'm going to Tesla just to make sure it doesn't get too much damage. And at this point, I can just cycle a couple of fireballs, a couple of logs, and take the game. So I just have to make sure I defend pretty well. I'm going to let his Bandit lock on to my Tesla, and I can actually start my fireball cycle. I played it in that spot just to predict if he would go with an Inferno Dragon, for example, which he did. So I was actually able to get fireball value just now. And I'm going to block everything at the bridge so that my tower can take care of the Ram Rider, which is pretty important. And I just have to cycle my cards pretty efficiently. I can get back to another... Actually, I don't need to get back to another Tesla. Now his tower's in range of one fireball, so I can just do that. So, pretty stress-free matchup. As long as you don't make any mistakes, they can't do much, so that is definitely a hard counter in Expo's favor. Just pre-plant your Teslas and play your defensive Expos in that position that I showed, and then go in once you have an advantage. Alright, so we're in the next game against a Japanese player. So gonna start out pretty passively as usual, and try and find out what he's playing. So we see the Zap, so most likely gonna be either a Lava Hound or a Pekka deck if I had to guess, and the Battle Ram does kind of confirm that it's gonna be a Pekka Bridge Spam deck. So definitely a good matchup for us, and happy to see that. He goes with a high magic archer to snipe my Tesla, so I'm actually going to Knight in the back opposite lane and see if he supports this, and he does, so I get a bit more fireball value out of that. And he still has to respond to this Knight. So, a relatively normal start. I'll just play archers in the back, kind of see if I can bait out a poison by him into this ghost. And he goes with a Pekka in the back, so I definitely disagree with that play, because I can just Expo opposite. And he goes with a Ram at the bridge, so I just support my Expo, and now what I can do is kill this Pekka with a Tesla, and it'll be kind of a wasted Pekka by him. And my Expo is locked on, so getting a fair amount of damage. I'm just gonna kind of kite the Pekka away from the Tesla, and try and log everything back. I do unfortunately miss the Bandit, but it's fine. I'll take the magic archer damage, and I will play archers on this ghost, but I'll split them so that if he goes with a ram either lane, I'll still be able to defend, because if I went with archers both in the left, he might ram at the bridge on the right, and I would be pretty low in elixir for that. So he goes with Ewiz. I'm gonna Expo because I think that's kind of a bad Ewiz, in all honesty. And it looks like he didn't have enough for Pekka, actually, because of that. And it looks like my Ice Spirit did throw off his Zap timer, so I'm just gonna protect this Expo with my Knight. And looks like he's gonna give up, actually, so a pretty easy game. Pekka Bridge Spam is a pretty good matchup for Expo, but he definitely made a really big mistake early on by playing that Pekka in the back. Generally, if they don't do that, what I do is I pre-plant my Teslas in the middle, because anything they play will go into the Tesla, so it'll always get value. And if they play a troop like an Ewiz or a Magic Archer, then I usually go opposite lane Expo. And that's generally how I play it, but that was a pretty straightforward win, and not much to say about that, just take the simple 3 crown and move on. Alright, so we're in another match. If I win this match, I will actually be at 7,000 trophies, so that'll be pretty cool, so let's see if we can do it. Heal Spirit doesn't tell me too much, as I said before, and you see a Magic Archer, so this could actually be the same deck we played against earlier, the Bridge Spam deck with Lumberjack and Inferno Dragon, but it could also be the other Cannon Cart Bridge Spam deck, so we'll have to wait to see what else he plays to find out. Let's see, he does go with the Cannon Cart, so it is going to be the Cannon Cart Bridge Spam deck. So this is not that bad of a matchup. It's actually pretty good for Expo, but it is tricky to get connections because Cannon Cart does such a good job at shutting down Expos. I'm just going to Ice Spirit to make sure this Cannon Cart dies, and we'll see what he goes with. So, Magic Archer again. This time I won't Fireball, I'll just Knight, and he will have to respond to the Knight too. So I'll play this pretty similarly. As I said, pre-Teslas against pretty much any Bridge Spam matchup are really effective. He goes with E-Barb, so I'm going to catch the Barb Barrel and just cycle back to the Knight real quick. Bandit actually bypasses my Knight and goes on to Tower, so that's my bad. I think I played my Knight a little too far to the left, but we do take a lot of damage for that, 1,500 damage, which is a fair amount, so off to not the best start, but I can definitely come back in this matchup. He goes with a Bandit, so I'm just gonna Archers and Skellies just to make sure I don't take any more damage. So like I said, it is harder to break through than the other Bridge Spam deck because of Cannon Cart, which is just so good at shutting down Expos. But this deck doesn't actually run a big spell, so I'm going to try and use that to my advantage by playing defensive Expos and trying to go in when I have a defensive Expo on the field. I'm just going to Fireball log that to make sure the Cannon Cart doesn't go past the tower. And Expo will do a pretty good job at taking care of everything, so I'm actually going to go in now that I have an Expo down and a Knight. So protecting defensive Expo is definitely important in this matchup. There's the Cannon Cart, but I'm going to Knight in front just in time. So let's see if we can get a connection. I'm going to Fireball these E-Barbs back, catch the Barb Barrel with my Skellies, and it looks like I am going to get a connection. So I'm going to predict his Bandit with my Archers, which I do get off, so that's good. I'm going to log that Magic Archer back just so it doesn't get too much damage, and I do also have to Knight on top. So just like that, I am kind of back in the match with that Expo connection. I was only able to get that connection because of my defensive Expo. So protecting defensive Expo is definitely important in this matchup, like I said. I'm going to catch the Barb Barrel with my cycle cards pretty much every time if I can. And I did that Knight to predict his Magic Archer on my Archers, so thankfully I was able to get it off. And defensive Expo once again, so I am using the same lower placement that I mentioned in the previous matchup, because I don't want him to be able to snipe my Xbows with his magic archers, so that's why I'm doing it like that. And I debated going in just now, but it looks like I'm pretty low on elixir, so I'm gonna hold off and just reset with this Tesla. I might go in now because he uses magic archer, so let's see if we can get another connection, which would be pretty nice. Cannon cart should come down any minute. There it is. I'm gonna try and catch everything. Unfortunately, Barb Barrel does take out my Ice Spirit, so I do have to let this Expo die. And we're in triple elixir now, so I'm gonna predict his magic archer with these archers. Don't get it off, but I'm gonna reset with a defensive Expo, and as long as I don't take too much damage, I can still win this game by getting a few spells on his tower to take the damage lead, since, again, he doesn't have any big spells. He's going to be spamming us pretty hard, but Defensive Expo will do an amazing job at taking care of this. He might Magic Archer on that knight, he does, but thankfully it does walk out of range, so that was really lucky for me. I'm going to reset with a Defensive Expo real quick. He's going to put on a lot of pressure once again, so I'm going to get back to log as soon as I can. Log all of that back. Skellies, and he goes to the Magic Archer, so I'm going to predict that with my Ice Spirit and Knight. I do get it off, and I was able to get this final Fireball to take the match. So, pretty close game. I did have a pretty rough start, but you can break through in this matchup by playing Defensive Expos, protecting them, and then going in off of those. And it is, once again, really important to track Magic Archer cycle, in my opinion, in this matchup, because they can get a lot of damage if you're not prepared for a Magic Archer connection, so you definitely have to be prepared for that.